What's happening, boys and girls? So I'm here with Heather. We thought we'd just do a little bit of sofa talk, just because we usually chat a load of shit and it all just gets lost in the wind. So we thought we'd do something and put it out there. Tonight, what we thought we were going to talk about is the sort of transition that Heather's made from powerlifter over to strongman, and sort of all the little finer details about that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll just sort of open up, let Heather introduce her powerlifting background. Before she does we talk about how she is 6th strongest woman in the world. So yeah, just let them know like a little bit about your powerlifting background, because I think people that are coming through my page probably won't know anything of your powerlifting, so let people know.
Thank you. Yeah, so I started powerlifting when I was 19, and I co-founded the University of Birmingham Powerlifting Society, won All England powerlifting champs in like 2016, I think. Took a fairly successful powerlifting team to Bucks. I think we didn't have many women then, but our men's team qualified for Worlds. Then carried on powerlifting after university, and probably the highlight is winning BDFPA British Championships and also winning pound for pound strongest lifter at the BDFPA, and setting the deadlift record and the total record, which I believe still stands.
What was the deadlift?
Today. That was 162.5 kilograms in the under 58.5 class, which is obviously the equivalent of the 57s.
Yeah.
So I got to a pretty good level in British powerlifting in 2019.
Perfect. So, like we just said, she came 6th at Worlds a couple of weeks ago. Last weekend before that?
2 weeks
2 weeks
now,
now.
yeah.
Yes, came 6th at Natural Strongman World Championships. So, somebody that's like really qualified to talk about transition, because she's been at the heights of each sport, you could say. So you've set like British records, you've been to Worlds at Strongman. So definitely someone qualified to talk about what the difference is in the sport. Less so than me, because I just chat shit about powerlifters. So first off, I guess the question would be like, why the change? Like, why did you decide to go from powerlifting to strongman? Because a lot of time powerlifters are very much like, powerlifting is the holy grail, this is the sport, and we just like doing nothing. So you obviously felt the same. So why the change from powerlifting to strongman then?
There were quite a few reasons actually, but certainly when I was powerlifting, I was very purist and like, this is the best measure of strength, this is the purest sport. Yeah. There were quite a few reasons why I ended up making the change. One of the big ones was I aged out of juniors. So in powerlifting, juniors is under 23. So I had to make a decision, was I going to go opens? To continue to compete at opens, which is quite a jump in powerlifting. The other one was weight classes. Like I said, I was competing like as an under 57, under 58. I'm almost 5'5", and I am that in the middle where my body really didn't want to cut down to under 57, but I was very, very light for a 63, 64. So I would have been having to make the decision to go up to opens as either keep pushing down to a 57 or bulk up to a 63, 64. I also had a back injury in February 2020, and we went into lockdown, so the gym's closed for 6 months. So all of that together meant I had a big reflection really on my athletic career. It was like a real turning point of like, what do I do with powerlifting? Or actually, I've got this back injury, I've got to rehab, I can't go to the gym for it.
I'll find something else.
Yeah. So why I chose to come back to strongman when I finally recovered from injury and we got out of lockdown was, it was just more fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, because I never went into strongman intending to be competitive. Like back in 2020, weight class strongman wasn't really a thing. The natural pathway wasn't really a thing. So you were looking at like an Andrea Thompson, a Donna Moore, and there was like little 59 kilo me or whatever I was back then. Like, oh, I'm never going to be any good at that. I could overhead press like 30 kilos or something. But yeah, it just looked really fun. Yeah. It just looked really fun. And when I first mentioned doing it, someone from my gym told me that they didn't think I'd be able to do it. So of course I had to. And the fact that I didn't have to do weight classes or age categories was a big appeal. Like I could just go and do a strength sport for fun.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. So could say like a bit more variety rather than saying like if we want to be a bit more PC and say like fun, like we could say a bit more variety, a bit more sort of do the training maybe rather than just repetitive bench, squat, deadlift and slight variations on each three.
Yeah, definitely more diversity and more challenge to be a well-rounded athlete. Whereas powerlifting, like you say, you do the 3 movements with a lot of rules, and after what would it have been, maybe like 4 or 5 years training that, you do get a bit sour on it, and I definitely had. Whereas strongman, pretty much every competition there's a new skill or a new movement or a new event to learn, so it was constant new challenges.
It's more varied in its rather than just focusing necessarily on just strength, like raw strength alone. There's a lot more focus on like balance, agility, speed, endurance, and stuff like that, as opposed to just out and out strength. So.
Yeah, definitely. And my background before powerlifting was like gymnastics, so I was much more of an all-around.
So this is kind of leading on to my next question about like, what's the biggest difference between the 2 sports, and I think we're starting to touch on that, as in like there is a lot more variety to, like in my opinion, there's a lot more variety to it. There's a lot more demanded of you as an athlete. Like it's not just laying on a bench, it's not just doing a squat and a deadlift, which I'm like, as a strongman, we do all of this. I don't bench.
Don't say you don't.
But like, you're still doing those things, and like my deadlift day is like, it's demanding in a very different way to like a moving events day, or like doing axle floor to overhead for reps. Is a much different sort of system that you're challenging in your body, rather than having to blow yourself out. Whereas like there's this old adage of like with powerlifters just sitting there in the corner in between sets munching something. Like we used to have one
no, because I used to time my rest periods, because all you're doing is like pure static strength. I used to time like a 5-minute rest period between sets. But on the question of like what the biggest differences are in how you train, I think you have to be a more well-rounded athlete in strongman. Powerlifting is very specialist. Like you have to be very, very good at static strength in a very defined set of rules of how you execute the movement. To like there are very, very strict rules. So in powerlifting on a deadlift, the bar can't come down. You can't have straps. You have to have an IPF approved belt. So it's not even just standards. It has to be specific brands. You have to wear specific shoes and socks. Bar has to be lowered under control, least favourite rule. But similar for the squat, there's like your arms have to be in a certain place, your hip crease has to be somewhere. For bench, your elbow has to be in a certain angle. Whereas strongman is just all these different movements, and a lot of them are like just get heavy weight from A to B in whatever way.
Get this bag across that line.
Yeah, or get this bag to your shoulder. Or get an implement to overhead, like the keg lift we saw at the Arnold's.
Yeah, that'll stick with me for a long time. That one.
Yeah, like there was a keg in the overhead medley, and people tackled it in a lot of different ways, but one of the lightweight women shouldered it, put it behind the neck, and then behind the neck jerked it.
Whereas most people were just coming in and push pressing it.
Yeah,
like, that's where you're
closer to a log press.
You're not necessarily going to see that variation in technique
in powerlifting,
or powerlifting,
because it's very prescriptive.
You have to bench this way. You have to do this a certain way.
Yeah.
And then see that. Yeah, you don't get to see that sort of that wow factor at the comp where everyone just goes, "Whoa, what the hell has he just done?" Or she just done? Like, is this a new like elite way of doing a keg press, or is it just absolute madness? Like, and then I bet you loads of people went home and tried
how to play with that. Yeah. And also cardio. Particularly, this was something I was aware of.
All strongmen are just big fat oafs, in though.
Yeah, it's surprising actually. If you look at how fit the like opens guys are, they're actually quite fit. But no, and it was something I was actually quite aware of, having a very sedentary job and then going and doing this static strength sport. I was actually quite unfit in terms of where my resting heart rate were. And
you look strong and you look good and whatever.
And everyone at work was like, "You're in the gym for like 2-3 hours a day." And I remember
80% of that is sitting.
I was like, well, most of the time I sat down. No, I remember I got like my heart rate tested. I did like a peak flow. Yeah. And actually, like my heart and my lungs were rubbish. Yeah. And it was something, as I was like coming out of teens and early 20s, and you start to like grow up a bit and think about health, I was a bit aware of. And in strongman, you do have to have explosive cardio, and yeah, it's maybe only for 60 seconds to 90 seconds, but it's that element
long
of
time with a heavy weight,
yeah, and it's just being more all-rounded athletic
yeah.
rather than
on the cardio thing. I think the only cardio you only ever really hear in powerlifting, or I can't say I've been around a lot of powerlifting anyway, but is you only need cardio to help you recover between lifts, like as in like on a comp day where it's going to be a lot quicker than, like you say, you might not get your 5 or your 12-minute your exact rest period or
between
whatever.
your warm-ups, yeah.
Where it's like that's the only real mention of cardio that I hear about in powerlifting, is so you can make sure that you're rested enough and recovered enough for your next attempt. Whereas like cardio in strongman, like you say, if you're doing a max distance, like I've had max distance sandbag events where there's no time limit. It's just you go until you drop the bag. So there is no set like whatever. And also it is a major factor. Like as a coach, like I see powerlifters come over and they do like a strongman class with us, or they do a strongman session, and like you say, you put them on a sandbag, you put them on a yoke or whatever, and they run 10 metres, they run 15 metres, run 30 metres.
And that was 100% me.
You don't see them again doing anything for another 20 minutes because they're gassed, or you don't see
that
them.
That was 100% me, and we had to start building my cardio up with like bike sprints, with skipping, with little endurance circuits. So it would be like 1 kilometre on a salt bike, plank for 30 seconds, kilometre on a salt bike, plank for 30 seconds.
So building up that like strongman specific cardio system.
And I just didn't have it, especially with a sedentary job. Like you move around a lot with your job anyway, because you're walking around shouting at people, you have quite a generally active lifestyle, walking dog. I didn't have any of that. I sat at a desk for like 9 to 12 hours a day.
It's completely different.
So that was the biggest difference that I had to build up.
Okay, so that was kind of doing this quite organically, to be fair, because my next question was going to be like, what has been the biggest challenge in changing the sports? And I think a big part of that is, a big answer of that is the conditioning side of things, and obviously there's a lot more skills to learn. You have to learn to clean, you have to learn to load, you have to learn to pick up sandbags and stones and different implements, and learn how to do a clean and press with a log, with an axle, with a dumbbell, rather than you're just using, like there's just a bench press. Like there's a lot more skills involved in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, in addition to the cardio, there's probably 2 other things. So the Olympic weightlifting skill base, which I didn't have, and I know Hannah Fitzgerald, she did a powerlifting block and then a weightlifting block and then into strongman. I think I heard her say when she very first started as an athlete at Nova, which I think you need to do. Like you build a static strength base, then you build the Olympic lifting, clean and snatch.
Some kind of athletic background, like you see a lot of rugby players that do really well in strongman because they're coordinated when they're moving. They've got good footwork. They're generally quite strong people anyway, like sturdy people. Yeah,
but then also I think the non-standardization of the kit is something you have to learn and something you have to train with, because powerlifting, the kit is very standardized, and like I was saying earlier, like the actual lifts you're doing are very...
like the actual equipment, not like
the equipment, well, you can wear whatever you want in strongman, pretty much. It's very prescriptive, and like most gyms you go to, even now, like a pure gym will have not calibrated plates, but you will be able to get a bar, a bench, and
barbell's a barbell.
Your plates, you might have like a nicer bar on the day. It'll give you 1 or 2 kilos.
Like a log is not a log. Like a log is not the same log.
Even we found like the log we were training with at home was very different to the logs they were using in the log ladder at Worlds.
Yeah, it would be different from gym to gym. Log to log is like from brand to brand is completely different. Rather than like, you can get maybe a road bar, so the dog's snoring in the background.
Is that a protest that you have in our sofa?
Boring, isn't it? Whereas like if you get a barbell from Cerberus, you get a barbell from Strength Shop, you get a barbell from Rogue.
Generally
speaking, like a power bar is a power bar, a stiff bar is a stiff bar, as opposed to like we're saying, like a log is not a log. Like you can get a 13-inch short log, a 12-inch longer log, a 10-inch log.
Even just the handles are a little...
One log weighs 20 kilos, whereas one, you go pick it up and it's 100 kilos empty. You get wooden logs, like there's all kinds of different variations just in a log, let alone like yokes, dumbbell, like everything.
Duck walks.
Yeah, duck walks. And again, like I think when you were powerlifting, I was doing like early days of strongman, like actual car park things, like doing it at rugby clubs and stuff. And like I'd never even touched a log when I'd done a log at the first comp. So it was like you say, that standardisation has made powerlifting a lot like more broader as a sport. Whereas,
and it's definitely improved the profile.
strongman's definitely getting towards that, whereas like there is now like a comp spec log. There is now like we use a deadlift bar generally, or an axle at most comps for a deadlift, or
so that's a big change in, firstly, in like how you can train, because you can't train in exactly what will be your competition setup, so you can't have the same muscle memory and kit familiarization. But also your mentality as an athlete, like as a powerlifter, you can really quite switch your brain off, because there's no skill base. Once you've been powerlifting long enough, you know how to squat, bench and deadlift. It's muscle memory, and actually you're just psychologically getting in the right place to use your power. So for some people that's a very calm space. For me that was always quite like an angry adrenaline fueled space. But actually for strongman you've got to have your brain switched on all in training and all in comp, and it's much more of like a problem solving mentality to the task, which again I think is probably closer, not having played it, but to like rugby, where you know how to play a rugby game, you know how to run, throw and catch, but what's in front of you is still going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that again comes back for me why I made the change. It's more fun. It was always a new challenge. My brain was thinking. It was
like, even now, like I do, like when you do national comps and stuff, like I think that's different. Whereas like the early days, you can kind of pick and choose. You can kind of like cherry pick your events. And
I certainly did when I my first year car park comps. I was like,
that one,
I don't want to do that.
That one doesn't look great. I don't like that event.
I remember sending my coach like 3 comps. Like, these are all on in like May. What should we do? And we cherry picked like Heather, you'll do the best at that one, or like I will enjoy that one.
So I think like, but as you get more progressed through the sport, like you say, there is a lot more like, right, you're going to do these 5 events, or you're going to do these over these 2 days, like it or not. So you do have to maybe like. For instance, like, I'm awful at power stairs. It's not really something that I've ever. If you want to, I haven't actually posted my worlds. It was that bad. But
the world's debrief.
But if you want to see someone suck dick at power stairs, then just watch me do a video of it. But like, that's something that I don't normally train.
Yeah.
And then like it's like boom, now you've got this at a comp, do it, like it or lump it. Whereas like in powerlifting, it's like if you don't like front squats, don't worry, because it's never going to come up in a comp.
Yeah.
You might always do it a little bit as an accessory or something, but like. Back squat, that's the back squat. That is it. So.
And then I think that brings it back to being a more well-rounded athlete, because like at high-level sports like football, rugby, whatever, like the very high-profile sports, being able to like problem solve, think on your feet, and behave well as an athlete, and mentally be good as an athlete. That comes more into play in strongman, which you don't really see in powerlifting. Powerlifting very much favours people who can just be like, don't think, just do. And like there's a lot of thinking in powerlifting programming, don't get me wrong, like the maths in peaking and stuff, that there's a fair bit in optimising that, because powerlifting is like optimising to the nth degree, but like when you're actually on the platform, you know how to pull a deadlift. Like that is, don't think, just do.
That could be controversial then, like, so programming for strongman is not trying to optimise everything?
Yeah, it's much more of a balancing act, because you've got to train. Well, for us, for Worlds, we had to train 8 skills.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's harder to...
And not get injured, and not get over-fatigued in any one area.
Fair shout, man.
But I was more trying to pull it back from saying powerlifters didn't need to use their brain.
Powerlifters, you're just boring, you don't do anything. So to summarise, so before we start, we're yabbering on all night about all of this, because I could slag off powerlifters all day.
You've done very well
to summarise, what would you say, like, what do you prefer doing as a sport? Powerlifter or strongman? No, like,
that's a caveat.
It's an A or a B answer.
Strongman.
So you do a strongman more.
Yeah.
That's coming from somebody who's die-hard powerlifting. The biggest difference between the sports?
Can I have 2?
You have 2, yeah?
Cardio and standardisation of rules.
Okay, yeah. I like that.
Or athleticism and standardisation of rules.
Yeah, and then just basically, you said that strongman's better, yeah? No, okay.
It's different.
Okay.
Because we have static monsters in strongman, and I think that's probably closer to powerlifting, is a very refined static monsters type sport.
Yeah, like you still get your push pulls and stuff like that in like.
I would
like
say
the
you're running a push pull.
The record breakers and things like that you can do, are all like that sort of thing. But then if you want to be a boring strongman, then you do those, I guess. Then like do a proper full comp.
Again, if you don't want to have the athleticism and the skill variety.
Don't be on one lift, a one trick pony. You want to be able to do a whole comp, really, don't you? Hey, you said it. Anyway, we'll end it on there before we start chatting too much shit. So yeah, thank you for outlining why strongman is better than powerlifting for everybody.
Funny Dylan Price was like, I was just like, yeah, babe.
And yeah, that is the first of our little sofa talks. There will be many more to come. Peace out, guys.
And let us know in the comments what you think is a better sport, strongman or powerlifting.
There you go.